The story of the 1966 Washington quarter begins in the middle of one of the most dramatic transitions in modern American numismatics. To understand the significance of this single coin, it is important to return to the years leading up to its creation, when the United States was experiencing a severe national coin shortage, a crisis of silver supply and economic pressures that forced the government to reshape the very nature of American circulating coinage. The Washington quarter had already been in production since 1932, originally intended as a one-year commemorative issue honoring the bicentennial of George Washington's birth. However, because of its popularity and the practicality of its size, it quickly became the nation's permanent quarter dollar. For decades, it was made of 90% silver and 10% copper, maintaining the same traditional appearance that Americans had grown accustomed to. But by the early 1960s, the rising price of silver began to threaten the entire monetary system. As silver bullion values climbed closer to the face value of circulating coins, the U.S. Mint realized that people were hoarding coins for their metal content and withdrawing them from circulation. This shortage became severe by 1964, with many businesses struggling to obtain coins for daily transactions. The government responded by dramatically increasing mintages, but even this did little to solve the problem because the root issue was the rising market price of silver itself. In 1965, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, an historic shift which effectively removed silver from the dime and quarter and reduced silver content in the half-dollar. For the first time since the 1790s, the quarter would no longer contain silver. Instead, the mint introduced a clad composition using an outer layer of copper nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This new composition gave the coins a slightly different look and feel, with a brighter surface and a distinctive ring when dropped. Production of these new clad quarters began late in 1965, but because of the ongoing coin shortage, coins dated 1965, 1966, and 1967 were all produced without mint marks and in extremely large quantities. This was done deliberately to discourage hoarding, since collectors would no longer be able to hunt for rare mint mark varieties. The 1966 Washington quarter therefore carries no mint mark, regardless of whether it was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, representing a temporary era when the mint centralized designs and discouraged collecting in order to keep coins in circulation. The 1966 quarter design continued to feature the familiar portrait of George Washington, created by sculptor John Flanagan in 1932. His depiction of Washington, based on Jean-Antoine Houdon's famous bust, became the enduring symbol of the American quarter for more than 60 years. On the obverse, the image of Washington, faces left with the word "Liberty" above, and the motto, "In God We Trust" to the left. The date 1966 appears at the bottom. The reverse still showed the heraldic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing America's long-standing balance between strength and peace. While the design remained visually the same, the new clad composition produced a different luster and a slightly different shade compared to the silver quarters of earlier years. Many people at the time immediately noticed the change in color and sound, which led to mixed public reactions. Some welcomed the modernization, while others disliked the loss of silver, feeling that coins no longer carried the same beauty or intrinsic value. The production of 1966 quarters was extraordinarily high because the mint was working relentlessly to eliminate the national coin shortage. More than 821 million quarters dated 1966 were produced, an immense total at the time. These coins were struck using improved minting techniques that allowed for faster production, though some quality inconsistencies emerged because the mint prioritized quantity over perfection during those crisis years. Collectors later observed that many 1966 quarters show uneven strikes, weak details in Washington's hair or the eagle's feathers, and surface marks caused by high-speed production. Nonetheless, the majority of Americans simply needed coins for everyday use, and the 1966 quarter quickly became one of the most widely circulated denominations of the era. Another important aspect of the 1966 quarter's history involves the mint's temporary suspension of proof sets and uncirculated coin sets. From 1965 through 1967, the mint replaced traditional collector sets with special mint sets, often called SMS sets. These sets contained specially struck coins of higher quality than circulation strikes, but not quite to the level of standard proofs. The 1966 special mint set included a quarter with sharper details and a smoother finish, and today these SMS quarters are an important part of the coin's history. They show how the mint attempted to satisfy collectors while still prioritizing circulation needs. Some SMS quarters even exhibit a deep cameo appearance on both sides, making them highly desirable to advanced collectors who appreciate their visual beauty and relative rarity. The 1966 quarter also marks a turning point in American monetary policy. After centuries of circulating coins made from precious metals, the United States fully transitioned to fiat-based coinage using inexpensive metals whose value was not tied to market prices. This ensured stability in the face of economic fluctuations and allowed the mint to maintain reliable production without fear of hoarding. The move to clad coinage in 1965 and 1966 solidified the modern era of American coins, setting the stage for all subsequent decades of U.S. currency production. The 1966 Washington quarter therefore stands not only as a piece of historical metal, but as a symbol of economic necessity and national adaptation. It reflects the government's response to inflation, industrial change, and the realities of a modernizing economy. As the years passed, the 1966 quarter remained in circulation for decades and became a familiar sight in commerce throughout the late 20th century. Millions of Americans handled these coins without realizing the historical significance behind their creation. Even today, many 1966 quarters continue to circulate, though most have been worn by years of use. Collectors often search for examples in high grades or SMS versions, preserved with exceptional surfaces. While the coin itself is common, its historical context is rich and essential for understanding the evolution of American coinage. It tells a story of a nation undergoing economic transformation, of a mint adapting its practices to unprecedented challenges, and of a population that relied heavily on the quarter as a critical tool of daily life. The 1966 Washington quarter remains an important artifact of its time because it represents the end of an era for silver coinage and the beginning of the modern clad system still in use today. It is a reminder of the economic pressures of the 1960s, the ingenuity of the U.S. Mint, and the enduring legacy of George Washington's gracing American currency. Though simple in appearance, the 1966 quarter embodies a chapter of American monetary history filled with change, adaptation, and the reshaping of national standards in response to global metal markets and domestic needs. This makes the 1966 quarter a fascinating subject for collectors, historians, and anyone interested in the evolution of American money from precious metal tradition to practical modern coinage.